So here we are, episode 2. We're getting into things. So here we have Blake's garage.
It's a mess.
There we have call 911. So we've got some parts here. Got my exhaust from my previous turbo setup that we'll be using. Nice front bumper there. Box of miscellaneous goodies. A lot of those were from the 2JZ from Ohio that I got. Some of those are still Camaro parts that we'll be reintegrating into the car. We'll come up to the front, and we've skipped quite a bit, so we're going to kind of just jump into where we're at now. But we have the motor in. As you can see, it's just sitting in there. We've got it sitting on a jack right now. It is in place where we want it to be. But right now we're fabricating some motor mounts, which Blake has already got one down there going, and on the other side kind of ready to go. So engine sits in there pretty good. We've got the intake on, and here is the turbo. So shout out to Nick at Real Street Performance for the turbo. When I was looking at turbos, you know, that was kind of one of those really big items that I could have probably gone cheap on, didn't want to. I really wanted a precision in there. I know the 7675 made really good power. On their videos, they've got really maxing stuff out at pretty much max effort, and if you run it at that, you know, pace for long, you're pretty much going to wear the life of the turbo. But that shows what they're capable of, so those are pretty cool videos. So the 7675 was what I was looking at originally, and I decided instead of pushing that one hard, I could just get the next size up, which is the 7685, which is what I got here, and that should make the power no problem without pushing it too much. My goal has always kind of been just to make more power than I made on the previous combo, which was that 1008. So I'd like to make more than that. If I make more than that, it should be more than good.
1009.
1009. I'm aiming just a little bit more than that.
1012.
Just to make sure I'm not coming close. So we'll see what it does. I was going to go with the Gen 2, but everything I have read online, and anybody feel free to comment if they know otherwise, on the Precision 7685 Gen 2. On the 2J, they're not really seeing any more power gains or any quicker spool time, unlike the 7675. The Gen 2s are seeing about 50 more horsepower and a little bit quicker spool time. So anyway, long story short, Real Street only had a couple of these 7685s left in the Gen 1s, and they were on an incredible sale. Nick really hooked me up on that. And they got me one, and they said, hey, we understand your project. We know this is going into a Camaro and not a Supra, and it may not fit. So we'll sell you the turbo. We've only got 3 left, and if you guys don't hook it up, don't ding it up, then you can send it back to us, and we'll give you a full refund. I thought that was a good deal, so I kind of jumped all over it. I had the turbo manifold made by SupraStore. They custom made it, and it turns out that the 2JZ GE turbo head, although I got a great deal on it and I've seen guys made really good power with it, may not have been the easiest head to get a turbo manifold for. There were really not that many options.
No.
And
pain in the butt.
Yeah, it really left us with only a few options. Fortunately, SupraStore stepped up and they made us that one for a good price, and we're good. So as far as clearance goes, really close. When we initially kind of put everything in there, we thought, hey, we're good. We just barely clear. And then as we started looking at things, we actually don't clear, but it's only by how much?
Technically it clears. It clears the, our tightest point is the hood, and our clearance is about 5/1000ths of an inch. So basically none. It doesn't interfere. You can close the hood gently, but it's way too tight. So the solution for that, actually, I can't bring the motor down any more than it is. It's a little less than a 1/4 inch clear of the steering rack and the subframe. We get clearance of subframe, but the steering rack, if you clearance those, that's kind of a problem because you can't steer. So we have a couple of fixed positions that I don't want to alter. The problem with moving the steering rack is you alter bump steer and a lot of other things. I don't want to deal with that. It's a change that's not necessary and everything else clears. So what we're actually going to do is I'm going to machine some spacers, and we're going to lower the subframe about 5/16 of an inch. I'm just going to machine some basic billet spacers. And because the lower control arm mounts are there, that'll bring the lower control arms and the spindles and everything down a little bit. Technically, there'll be some very minor changes to anti-dive and camber curves and things, very slight. If it was a road race car, we might adjust things a little bit more, or just fabricate a spacer to lower the top of the strut a little bit. In this case, it's got adjustable coilovers on it already. I don't think it's anything that small of a change will really cause us any problems. But that'll get us exactly that amount of clearance. So it'll get us about 5/16 of an inch of clearance. And it's worth noting, our clearance is actually right here on the cold side. The hot side, because the hood is rising away here and the turbo is falling away, we have like 1.5 inches here. So this will get a turbo blanket. And you can see there's clearance to the firewall, or clearance to the strut tower here by plenty. We're tight on the compressor, but you know, we're a little better than 1/4 of an inch, and the motor's on poly mounts. There's really going to be almost no engine movement. I mean, 1/16 of an inch, maybe 1/8 of an inch at most. So the hot side will be well clear, and with a blanket on it, it won't melt the hood. So it's really the cold side that's the problem. And I mean, these get warm, but not enough.
Yeah,
if this gets hot enough to melt something.
No, you can, with thick workers' hands, you can grab that thing even right after a hard pull, and it's not bad.
Yeah, if this gets hot enough to hurt your paint, you screwed something up pretty badly.
Yeah.
So 5/16 of an inch right here, and if you look at the hood, actually, there's a convenient grease stain here.
Oh, yes.
But these marks right here is where it's kissing it, so it actually works really nice. There's a scallop in the hood here, if you see, that is to clear what, the LT1 alternator?
I believe so, yes.
So it's a very convenient clearance spot in the hood, because this literally follows the curve of the top of the turbo.
Ah, it's like it was almost meant to be.
Yeah, it was designed for a giant turbo.
Chevy decided that it needed a 2J with that size turbo in it at some point.
Yeah.
Motor mount plates right now, is that right, Blake?
Yeah, we've got a little bit of a CAD design here, or cardboard aided design. In this case, it's some copy paper design. But these are basically plates that are going to pick up the 2JZ factory motor mount points, and this is going to get cut out a 1/4 inch steel plate, and then we'll have some tubing that runs down to the motor mounts I added to the subframe.
Okay.
And that'll all get braced and built so that it doesn't, fall off at 1,000+ wheel horsepower.
Perfect.
But essentially, it's just going to use the factory 2JZ pickup points, and it'll dodge all the important hot and movie bits inside of it, and that's what we'll have next. And then after that, it's charge pipes and down pipes and lots of pipes.
Awesome.
So,
Ready for some pipe time. Cool. People back home, we're going to use this. This was off a SC300, I believe, 2J GE head, the intake, and we're going to basically cut it. And
correct. Yeah, we're going to. So there's some little marks right here. We're going to take probably about 1.5 inches off of it, just to improve the clearance a little bit. Back towards the actually really back towards everywhere that's in the engine bay. Is a little bit snug, and these are fairly long runners. They're trying to, I think, get some torque out of it in the NA motors. So we're going to shorten the runners about 1.5 inches, and then we're going to CNC out a piece of 1/4 inch plate. So there'll be a single piece of flat plate that'll run where we trim this out. That'll allow me to take it in from the basically the inside of the intake manifold and then we can take some cartridge rolls and smooth that transition so that it's as nice and smooth as reasonably possible. And then we'll basically build out the rest of the intake manifold out of some 1/4-inch plate and some 1/4-inch, probably 4-inch tubing.
Very nice.
And then the front of this, it'll end up with a front-facing or a throttle body right around here. And this will get a General Motors, easy for me to say, gold blade throttle body. It's a 90mm throttle body, drive-by-wire, which it's really a steal of a price, considering like $100 brand new.
Yeah, compared to doing something Toyota branded on this would.
Yeah, a lot of the
expensive.
The aftermarket manifolds that I found use a 4-bolt 90mm Ford throttle body, and they're like $400. And yeah, it doesn't really flow anymore. And I've built a lot of LS motors. I've boosted a lot of LS motors, and those 90mm gold blade throttle bodies just work really nice.
Oh yeah, they're money. And so the funny thing is about intakes, and from what I've learned online, is that some guys have made like 1,000 horsepower off the stock manifold, and that's cool. And then other guys are like, no, you need this $5,000 intake to make more than that. And they do in some cases make more, some make less. But I think with us fabricating the way we're planning on doing here, we should be good for the goals we're making. It should look pretty decent too, I think.
Yeah, well, and the other benefit with this setup, I mean, with the standalone, we have a lot of capacity for tuning to make it work properly. Within reason, as long as we don't get too far out of the ballpark.
Yeah. And
that's the other benefit to using that throttle body is kind of everybody uses that throttle body. It's a pretty well documented setup. So the Haltech should have a built-in program config for it that should get us pretty close.
And I don't think we've mentioned or whatever, but we're planning on going with a Haltech Elite 2500 ECU setup for this. And that should help us correlate everything together, good tunability, excellent customer service. I know I kind of was back and forth from some people like, no, you must use Pro EFI and only Pro EFI. And Pro EFI, I'm not bashing it, because I will say probably the majority of guys doing the 2J with big power like this are probably running that route. But Elite 2500, I believe, is going to fit our needs better. I know that you can do the initial tune with it and get it running, driving. Make sure we don't have any leaks when it comes to that time, and get it to that point, and that way when I know everything is good, then I'm ready to put boost at it, I'll send it to my other tuner to turn it up, and he can take it from there. So it's a good point. The price on it's not too terrible. I think I'm going to have, man, after all the sensors and stuff, probably around maybe $2,700 in it.
Yeah, somewhere under $3,000.
Yeah. So it's almost standard for pretty much anything you do on a
AM, Pro EFI, Haltech. They're all, by the time you do it, they're about 3,000. The only way to really get less is probably like a Mega Squirt, and then your next above that is your Cyvex and Life Racing, and
you're talking stupid money.
Yeah, Pectol, Motec.
Really overkill for what we're trying to do here.
What is it? It's a Magnum transmission. So the T56 Magnum that's in it, right now this has a conversion mount from, was it BMR?
Oh shoot, yeah, sure, BMR.
Yeah, BMR. So it's got a conversion mount. It's got an aftermarket transmission mount in it from when it had the LT1, because it had a little bit newer transmission in it. And I was actually able to modify that just a little tiny bit, and it actually is within about 1/4 of an inch.
Oh, nice. Let me go down
where
here.
It's
take a look
at that factory.
Look at where we're looking here. All right. Let's see if we can see down here.
So that is, if you look at it, the center of that mount has been cut out, and it's bolted to the transmission right now.
Nice.
And then both sides, you can see where I cut it and clearanced it. But I'm actually going to adjust the spacing of that center bracket, the part that's cut clear right now, just a little bit. And it'll actually end up lining back up with both sides, so it'll only end up getting offset just about 1/4 of an inch. And that'll get plated back in and fish plates for reinforcement. So
very nice. One more thing I did want to mention. Ideally, with this turbo, because it really isn't going to start making boost until about 4,000 RPM, what I wanted to do was get Sound Performance's spool valve, and that would give it about 800 more RPM worth of spool. But unfortunately, due to the space we have and the limitations we're already at, I'm probably going to have to axe that. It wouldn't give me any more power, just be a little bit quicker spool characteristics, which would be nice. Being a street car, This has always been and will be a street car, just meant for having plenty of power and having fun on the street. I'll take it to the track and we'll see what it does in the quarter mile, and I would love to get it to a half-mile event and see what it can do there. Once it's all said and done, we'll get video of all that, I'm sure. But really the heart of this and the direction I've always wanted to be, and it was a street car. So the extra spool would be nice, but we're just not going to have room.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, if you really need it at the track, like we talked about before, you can always put a 50 shot on it.
Yeah.
Just to kind of kick it in the butt to get it going.
Could if I want to. I mean, if I wanted to go silly with it too, I could ditch my beautiful Suncoast Creations hood, which was junk when I got it. Unfortunately, body shop did enough repair to it that it looks acceptable to me. But I could ditch that and go to a cowl hood, but again, because street car, not race car. Today we saw the progress of where we're at. We talked about things to come, some of the parts we're using and going to be doing. We talked about the next step, which sounds like a lot of the exhaust, the hot side, the downpipes. And
yeah, it's really all of the heavy fabrication.
Okay.
Getting all the things. So swapping an engine in a car, really doing anything on an engine. I think I heard this from Mike Finnegan, and it's probably the truest thing I've ever heard about building cars. Building cars is just building brackets, right? Right now we're building motor mount brackets. We're gonna cut some pipes, so a little bit of plumbing, but the vast majority of this is just building brackets. Finding out the spot where everything can fit, making it fit there, making it so that it doesn't fall out of that spot, and then building brackets to make everything else fit. And a lot of what we've been doing so far is working with all the things that have to be in a spot. So when you're doing an engine swap like this, there's certain things that can't move, or at least very difficult to move. We talked about the steering rack relocation and bump steer. So that's a fixed point. We don't want to alter that point. So we need to make the engine clear it. You know, the cowl here is a fixed point. We need everything to clear it. You know, our strut towers are fixed points. You know, we can tube the chassis, we can do a lot of other things there, but that's work we don't want to do if we don't have to do it. So a lot of this is just finding out exactly where the motor has to fit, and then once the things that you can't move are located, then you start working on all the things that you can move. So accessory drive, most of that should fit, but if it comes down to fabricating new mounts for accessory drive, as long as they line up and the belt's clear and we can get good belt wrap, we can move accessories around. You know, radiator cooling system, it goes somewhere around here. I think that the build from the LT1 should mostly fit.
Yeah.
But again, if we need to move those things, you know, within the confines of the body, we can adjust where those go, you know, down pipes, up pipes.
Unfortunately, when I had the turbo on the LT1, I know I just had a picture on the last video, but it was mammoth. That Borg, and any Borg in general, is just huge. And
it's like the size of a gallon of milk jug.
It was gigantic, and it sat like right here and right in front of the water pump too. So really to hit, you know, fit an intercooler and a radiator, I mean, I had to cut this out, which I hated doing because I know I lost a lot of rigidity with the car and the frame by doing that, and that's why we kind of reinforced down here with the bar as we did. And if we can, you know, we'll see if we can, but I would love to put a strut tower brace over top of it if we can somehow fit it in there, just to give it a little bit more rigidity. But when I did that, it really helped us out in this point for having a lot more room up here to fit all those things. So I think that should be a good starting point for sure.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. So stay tuned for more, and we'll keep updating as the progress comes. Again, we both work full-time jobs. Yeah. This isn't our full-time, I'm going to be a bum and build a street car that's...
Yeah, I'm not fancy enough to be like a YouTube personality.
Yeah, we don't have enough subscribers or likes yet. So until that day, we will continue to have to do this in our spare time, and we'll update as necessary. The time frame for the project, if I were to guess, man, I don't know. You and I kind of came up with different time frames. I'm used to figuring out everything and how much it costs, and then double that, and then triple the time, and then add a little bit more, and then somewhere beyond that, you're probably in the ballpark of being accurate. So my thought was maybe a year from now, and then you're like, no, I could probably have this thing done by winter. I'm like,
yeah, I'm really good at spending all of my friends' money. I like to spend their money because then I don't have to spend my own money. The intention is to have the heavy fabrication done here in the next 2 or 3 months. It's the beginning of September 2019 right now. Mm-hmm. So the intention is hopefully by the end of the year to have motor mounts done, charge pipes done, hot side done. That's really the vast majority of it. Then it'll be getting the engine assembled and doing the wiring harness. Wiring harnesses are actually kind of what I started doing when I got into
Oh,
cars.
dude, you're super
So-
good at it, and I know you enjoy that stuff. So, so I am hopeful that spring of 2020 it'll be ready to turn key
Least
and make
early
noise.
summer.
Yeah, early summer, somewhere in that time frame. I've got nothing I'm trying to make. It just whenever it's done is when the end result is really, and we'll just take that as it comes, one thing at a time, and people's schedules at a time. And it's going to come to sometimes you're just waiting on parts or whatever, and we'll just have to wait. So it'll happen when it's going to happen, but you know we're kind of thinking maybe late spring, early summer.
Yeah, that's the intention.
Yeah.
That's the goal. It's good to have goals. You know,
Yeah.
you set time frames and then you don't meet
Not
them,
just
but-
saying, someday before I die, I'd like to be
That's
able to
right.
crank this thing. No, we're going to work on it and get it done when we can here. But we're thinking, you know, warm time of 2020, we should be making
Yeah,
some.
it's
2J
actually a
noises.
fairly straightforward build. Everything mostly fits, so not too bad. It's very accomplishable.
Very good. Stay tuned for more.